This episode is brought to you by the American Reptile and Plant Expo. It's Colorado's biggest reptile and plant show. Colorado natives host the All-American Reptile and Plant Expo on September 7th and 8th at Douglas County Fairgrounds. Shop oddities, terrariums, reptiles, amphibians, invertebrates, and plants from Reptile Basics, Arcadia, Pangea, and more. Tickets for the All-American Reptile and Plant Expo are available on Eventbrite now. Plus, use code CITY for 10% off. For more details, visit denverreptileshow.com. That's denverreptileshow.com. This episode is brought to you by the YMCA of Metro Denver. Discover a place where weightlifting is uplifting. The YMCA of Metro Denver is your spot for cardio and strength training, fitness classes, swimming pools, and programming for all ages. Have kids but still want to hit the gym? Check out the Supervised Adventure Zone. Because at the YMCA, family time and me time are both possible. Try the YMCA at Metro Denver for free in September. Get a 7-day trial membership anytime this month by going to denverymca.org/citycast to sign up. That's denverymca.org/citycast.
Today on CityCast Denver, downtown is dead. Downtown is back. Ever since the pandemic started, everyone's been asking, what the heck should be done about downtown? So on this week's Friday News Roundup, we're looking back at the new food truck bans in Lodo and the mayor's latest big idea. Plus, a noisy new music venue north of Colorado Springs, and our wins and fails of the week. Today is Friday, September 6th. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the show about the city where fewer and fewer people are climbing 14ers because, and this is just in, it sucks.
I could have told you that.
Yeah, it's not fun to do.
It isn't. I don't know why anyone does it.
The mountains are too damn tall. It takes forever to get up there, and then when you do, there's thunderstorms.
Yeah,
people playing beer pong, making you feel old.
Is that what's happened to you on a 14er, Paul?
No, actually, my real story is that my wife and I climbed most of Mount Bierstadt. And then once we got to the boulder field at the very top, we were just like, meh, we're good.
Well, at least you were on the same page about it.
Yeah, no, I love that.
That could have gone really bad.
Yeah, we are great at, we call them hike rules now, but the rule is as soon as anyone has an inkling that they're not having a good time, turn around.
Wow. I have the opposite experience with
Really?
my partner who's like, we're going to do it because I'm having fun and everyone's going to have fun.
Sometimes that can work too. Like if you push through, like there's some people talking about type 2 fun, which is like a Colorado thing, I think, of like in retrospect, that was fun, but in the moment it sucked.
I don't believe in that.
No, I don't think I do either.
This is why I don't hike and I go to the mall. So, there you go.
But yeah, this fewer and fewer people climbing 14ers thing is weird, right? Like,
I didn't know what to make of it. I know we talked about this a year ago, 2 years ago, when Peyton was like, less people are going to start hiking these.
Our newsletter editor, Peyton Garcia, predicted this on our hiking show. Yeah.
Are they just bored?
Well, the story from the Colorado 14ers initiative is that millennials are aging out of like, hiking ages. They're like having kids and working more. And then the other thing is this person.
Millennials don't want to work. Millennials don't want to hike.
The other thing was funny was this person said that Gen Z doesn't like the outdoors.
Oh my God, me and Gen Z. I love you guys.
I don't know if that's true either. And then the other detail, this is great, but apparently they're having a hard time keeping count of how many people climb Mount Bierstadt, which is the easy one. If you want to climb a 14er, that's supposed to be the easy one. Someone stole the infrared counter at Mount Bierstadt this year for the second year in a row.
Some cool dude has that in his basement or whatever. I don't even know what you're doing with it, but...
Yeah. I love that. Anyway, it's Friday. We're here. We're talking about the biggest stories of the week here in the 5280 Magazine studios in beautiful downtown Denver, Colorado. Kind of an overcast day.
Nice overcast day. Enjoying
it. Feels like fall.
It does.
I wore my boots this week for the first time this year.
I can't wait for UGG season. I'm ready.
Our host, Bree Davies, is here. Hey, Bree.
Hi.
And we have a fantastic guest today, someone we've been looking forward to having for a long time. He's a former journalist with Colorado Community Media and the Colorado Sun. And I would say, I don't know, big talker on all sorts of Denver issues, especially history, a history specialist. David Gilbert, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's a blast.
David, when's the last time you bagged a 14er?
What a great question. Honestly, it's been about probably about 10 years ago, my brother convinced me to climb Kit Carson in the Sangres in southern Colorado.
Ooh.
And yeah, I mean, it was totally one of those experiences. Like, we got pretty far up there, and it was just this whole experience. I mean, I was up there in like my skater shoes, you know,
wow.
and like, it was just one of those experiences where you're looking down, you're like, one slip and I'm dead.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I am
like
not-
that's it.
The
And
worst.
Why?
not a fun, like not an easy, not a quick, like, you
Why
know.
do people do this? I'm so confused.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it looks really cool on top. Like, isn't it great up there and everything? But it's like, you know, where we were camped, our like little base camp was like this like idyllic Middle Earth like waterfalls.
You're like, we
and
don't
I was
need
just
to go
like,
anywhere.
what? This is fine.
Why leave?
I don't need to conquer the mighty peak. Like, that's fine.
I think
So I guess I'm part of that demographic in the 14ers initiative story.
all
Hell
I'm
yeah.
hearing is
Hell
none
yeah.
of us are clearly in need of a good photo for our dating profiles.
No, this is
So,
not a
Maybe
14er
that's what it
climbing
is.
podcast. No.
us old married people
Yeah.
are not. We're missing the whole point.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay, that makes more sense now.
Um,
The view.
All right, let's get into our top story. We got a couple of really fun topics today. The top story this week is, as it is so often, downtown. Is it dead? Is it back? We don't know.
Are we watching it too closely? Are we hypercritical of it? Yes, and yes.
But this week, there's a little bit of hope, I think. That's the story. The top story this week is City Council's forwarded Mayor Johnston's. You got an innovative new idea for public funding. It's going to be on the ballot in November, along with a million other things. And now 4 blocks of the newly renovated 16th Street. We're not supposed to call it a
We're not
mall
supposed to
anymore.
call it a mall anymore.
Really?
Yeah,
That's the word from the Downtown
rebrand.
Denver Partnership. Don't call it a mall.
It's just
Is
16th
this
Street.
is like when they started telling everybody not to call DIA DIA.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm sorry.
I mean, also, I think this is strange because I do think that there's an interest from Gen Z in malls. Like, I don't understand. I don't think there's a negative connotation.
well, they love dead malls in particular, right? I mean, so now we're kind of in a conundrum.
Me and them
Hey,
both.
we could call it the 16th Street Dead Mall.
yeah, there you go.
I would go there either way.
Yeah.
Dispatch some liminal photographers.
Yes.
Um,
Vacant spaces.
So the other news here, we'll talk about all these things, but Axios Denver reported recently that office workers are returning downtown. I think that's the other big hope here. So it seems like sunlight is piercing through the storm clouds.
But office vacancy rates are at a high, even higher than they were last
higher than
year.
ever. Yeah. I mean, I talked about that last week.
Well,
I guess.
true.
highest since they started like more closely tracking it, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
that's always like this piece of it is like, I mean, you know, we always hear about the post Black Sunday, 1980s, apocalypse downtown, and that may have been worse, right?
We just weren't.
We just
paying
weren't
attention.
tracking it
Yeah.
the same way. you're
Right.
saying?
I mean, that's my understanding is just there was not nearly as close of tracking of those numbers back then.
Well, David, let's just talk generally about downtown because, like Bree said, we talk about it a lot. But where are you at with downtown? What's your relationship with it?
So, okay, I think downtown to me, this question of are downtowns obsolete? Are big central business districts with big high-rise towers, are they obsolete? And I mean, it's so interesting to me because I think, downtowns in general have always fascinated me because it's like, there's nothing like this for hundreds of miles in any direction.
When we're talking
Right.
about Denver, right, as a downtown, as a major metropolitan area, and
Yeah, well, and not just that, but I mean, in particular, the central business district, the big old towers, the cash register building, Republic Plaza, all these, these dense, I mean, those few blocks where you can kind of navigate and feel like you're in like Chicago or something, you're in these concrete canyons.
a real city.
Yeah. And, there's nothing else like this. So, and I think what's so like, so I've got 2 little kids. I've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I love bringing them downtown. And I think that like it shocks and appalls a lot of my neighbors in the suburbs. They're like, "Are you sure? I thought it was this like hellish Mad Max wasteland." And I think what is so, special to me about downtown in particular and why it's not obsolete is it's like this sense that like when you're here you are in the beating heart of the Rocky Mountain Empire. Right. I mean, here you are.
Our chosen capital.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're here's all these big landmarks all around you. And that's significant and unique. And I think this idea that we should just give up on it, that like, sorry, it's a forgotten, its time has passed. It's like, no, it's still significant. It's still filled with very important places. And I think it it's bounced back from a lot of things too. And I mean, I think that's kind of what's lost in this, is this idea that like, you know, it's gone through this before, like we were talking about. I mean, the 1980s,
right,
you know, was potentially worse here. So I think
we do have a little of that amnesia though about what has happened before. I think it's really easy to forget that we've been to this place before, or sure, we've had bigger, I don't know, we've had highs and lows just as much as we're experiencing it right now.
Yeah, it's not dead. It's just like
it's
everything else. It's a market. There's ups and downs.
Yeah.
There's ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
There's peaks and valleys.
Yeah. Keep going, Paul.
No, that's all I have. Now, so here's something I wanted to bring up here, because you're saying like this is an important thing. You know, I feel like this is a choice. You know, we're making as a city. That's how I like to think about it. City's a lot of people. There's like 2.5 million people in the metro area, and my favorite resource for stuff like this is the Colorado Polling Institute. They polled on the question of downtown earlier this year. They asked Denver voters, in your opinion, how much of a priority should it be for Denver city government to invest more in revitalizing downtown? And obviously, this is Mayor Johnson, one of his big priorities, so he is top priority. However, only 13% of respondents agreed that it's a top priority. The majority, 33%, said it's a medium priority. So maybe people don't care that much about downtown, and we're going to end up more with these like stronger suburbs like Littleton and Arvada, and you know.
It kind of just depends on your type of life, like what you do every day. Is this something that you interact with every day? For folks that work down here, sure they do. For folks that come down with their families, okay. For folks that come down for shows or to go to a restaurant that they want to try out or whatever, then it is a relevant part of their lives. But I can see where yes, I think it's easy to stay in wherever you live in that community and not come down here and then fall, like you're saying, David, to these hysteria, the hysteria around downtown being a wasteland, and then make that as the reason you don't go down there.
Well, I mean, I think, you make a good point. I mean, the idea that, the center of gravity in this metro area has shifted. I mean, I think, like you said, I mean, once upon a time, 20 years ago, that was the story. The suburbs were boring and downtown was where it was at. That was where everything excited. It's like if you wanted vegetarian food, you went downtown, And since then, like,
you went to Watercourse. I mean,
right,
really.
Or,
it's
yeah,
like
it
was the only place, or the Govindas. I'm trying to
right. Yeah, but I mean, it's like, yeah, and like, and in that time, like, yes, the suburbs are a lot more developed now, and they're a lot more diverse, and there's a lot more going on, and so yeah, I mean, the idea that and I mean, it's so funny the way it's reflected even in this infrastructure around us. I think of the way the light rail system is still this hub and spoke system that was designed in the early 90s with this idea that this would forever be the heart, and
we got to give suburbanites a way to get downtown.
Yeah,
to where they work.
Yeah,
we got to give them an easier way.
We talk about the 16th Street Mall a lot, and I want to share a story that I came across last night. I was at Champagne Tiger, which I'll talk about later, but I met a musician there, and he got up in between songs and said, "Hey, I'm a performer on the 16th Street Mall, and I've started a petition to ask the mall to allow amplification of musicians on the mall," because he said currently they're sort of allowing it, but as they open new sections of the mall, they're not allowing busking musicians to use amplified instruments. And he's a violin player. And he said, this really deeply impacts my playing ability. And this is my livelihood. I am a musician. I get a lot of my gigs from playing on the mall, people talking to me. I play weddings, I play events. And they've cracked down on this amplification issue. And I think that it's killing some of the character of the mall. And I reached out to the Downtown Denver Partnership. To be fair, this was like 12 hours ago, so they haven't responded to me. But I looked into it, and he had actually talked to Fox 31 a month ago about this issue. And so they have a sign that's on the mall that's like, hey, if you want to be a busker, scan this QR code and apply for a permit. And he had shared with me one of the caveats is you can get a permit, but we have banned amplification. So if you get this permit, you definitely cannot amplify your instrument. And it just had me thinking more and more about curation versus the real organic nature of what happens in a downtown. You cannot curate an experience and you can't highly control it and expect it to feel authentic and real.
I was having this exact argument with myself this morning on the Cherry Creek Trail, because they recently changed the policy on how they put art up.
Mm-hmm.
And they instead of like having the one person from Arts and Venues select specific artists to put up specific murals that have been pre-vetted, they contracted with a local artist who got a bunch of his friends, and they were just like, go nuts, put up a bunch of stuff. And now it's so wild down there. And I think the intention was to like stop people from tagging these like more like official looking murals. But now we have like this wilderness of like, it definitely feels more authentic, but it also feels like unintentional, and like there's more tagging now. I don't know. I was going back and forth on it.
This is an age-old problem, again, as the person who is a survivor of being related to a graffiti artist. You cannot control where people tag. You can try all you want. Right. They're going to make it worse. But that is interesting, Paul, because with the Arts and Venues program as it was very specific, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But also,
they treated it like a gallery.
Yeah, but also to me, that would be like, then there would be one section where you had one piece, and then you would have like a whole a mile where you didn't have any at all, and It didn't feel organic to me at all.
Not
I
at all.
loved seeing it. I'm not gonna downplay it. I love that we have that program, but I do just think it is part of this conversation around how do we make things interesting? We have to allow a certain amount of organic activity where humans decide these things outside of the parameters of whatever to create the thing that makes that area cool. And the 16th Street Mall is going to continue to struggle to me if they try to control it too much.
Well, I kind of agree. And I think that's what Mayor Johnston is like. That's what Mayor Johnston's making me think. He's got all these ideas. He's got this like new funding scheme to extend the funding authority that like helped them revitalize Union Station. He's got all these ideas, but like, would it be better to just go hands off and let downtown be downtown, whatever people want to make of it? David, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think, that idea too of the idea of downtown Denver no longer being kind of the center of gravity of the metro area, the suburbs having developed, that great piece by Robert Sanchez in 5280. I mean, he's talking about this idea that wow, maybe we need to be going back to the downtown that was obliterated in the 60s and 70s by the Denver Urban Renewal Authority, which is this idea of, we had this dense mixed use downtown, and then we obliterated it for the late 20th century idea that now you were going to have big high-rise office towers that you were going to commute to from a suburb, and now it's 50 years later, and we're saying, oh crap, that's not working again.
We had, and a lot of those buildings did not get, a lot of those 5-story buildings didn't get replaced with the skyscrapers that were promised. They got replaced with parking lots, which has in recent years what's called infill. Those things have been built upon, and that has changed it. But I did like Robert's piece because he gives that historical context, because downtown has been through many evolutions, and sometimes they're a forced hand of evolution. Downtown urban renewal authorities, that's a forced hand. That makes things change in a way that, for me as someone that worked in planning, it didn't work out great for us. And we're still rebounding and bouncing back from that. But as we do that, we have to allow for more diverse perspectives and decisions to be made. And maybe that's what Mayor Johnston's hope is too.
So I think to that question of, can it be made authentic and organic again? It's like, I think that ideally would be a natural byproduct of making this a neighborhood again, making downtown Denver a neighborhood where people live. And
the neighborhood
live
part of it is really interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
does it feel like a neighborhood to you, Paul?
Well, we've talked about it. For some people, it definitely does.
Sure,
last time we talked about it, we heard from people, they were like, it feels like a neighborhood to me. It's my neighborhood, damn it.
Yeah.
And I get that. I totally hear that. There's places I love coming down here. There's not like grocery store options. It's not, I don't know, but that's every neighborhood's got its own problems.
Yeah.
I don't know.
To me, it's just like, we can look at the bigger cities, the New Yorks, the Chicagos, the San Franciscos, and that is what a downtown feels like to me. And Denver has never felt exactly that way. And I think it's because we are missing some of those key components. But again, this is not new information.
I was in D.C. last weekend, and D.C. has such a great, vibrant downtown, and has it turned over in the last 10 years since I graduated college. Wow.
It's changed.
So different. Much like Denver. But they have this weird regulation in D.C. where they have height limits on all their buildings. So there's a lot of similar height buildings, but more spread out. It just made me think, you were talking to David about this is one place with skyscrapers and within like a 500-mile radius or something. I don't know. Would we be better off with shorter buildings but more spread out buildings? How would that have been? How would that have been Denver? That's kind of an interesting, alternate history, I guess.
Well, and it's so fascinating to think that it, within living memory, that downtown, got effectively bulldozed. I mean, was it like 120
60s.
acres or something like that?
Yeah, you can see the photos, the change between the Urban Renewal Authority project of the 60s and then now it's like, well, look at it in the 90s. We have had a lot of great buildings be built, but it is just like it's just one of those, what were we thinking?
I think
people are going to be doing that with the parking lots around Ball Arena and Elitch's in 20 years.
Yeah. Be like,
looking at
can you believe
look at all that empty space, and now it's this neighborhood. And would you say that what Kroenke's planning over there is that natural? Is that responding to market demands?
I mean, to me, it's really going to depend on who he's building for, and if there's enough opportunities for different types of businesses and people to live there and inhabit it, so that it has a good mix of incomes and people that can participate in what that area is or becomes. Because if it's just all high end, then it ends up looking like Cherry Creek, and that certainly doesn't feel like a downtown to me. I don't know. That's just me. But I want to talk. Can we talk about the control thing? Can we talk about the food trucks?
Yeah. We have to talk about the food trucks. That's the other big news this week. Denver Police Department has, for the second time, they did this in 2022, and they're doing it again. They're blocking off parts of Lodo, that's lower downtown, to food trucks late at night as an effort to curb crime around let-out time at the clubs, the Dierks Bentley Whiskey House. I always pick on Dierks Bentley's Whiskey House for this thing. It's just the funniest one to me. But no food trucks downtown. Does Denver hate food trucks? That's what
so
one person said.
Dumb to me. It's so counterintuitive. A, you're punishing businesses, crazy, which you want downtown. Two, Denver has a dearth of after hours places to eat. This has been a problem for the last 5 years. We have no diners. Like none. We have a couple late night spots. These food trucks fill that need. I don't subscribe to the belief that people can eat their way out of being drunk, right? People are like, oh, you sober up when you have a grilled cheese. Like, no, you don't. But at least you have a place to chill and get your bearings. And they're removing that element. And I think it's so crazy. It just does not make sense to me. It's like, we need to figure out a better way for food trucks to be able to participate in this downtown and maybe make spaces for people to hang out and sit down and eat because you're sitting and eating on a curb. I don't know. Maybe that's the actual
problem. Maybe it was
problem.
easier to sober up slumped over a table at Tom's Diner,
Yes. A Denver diner. I picture it. I saw it so often. This is exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
It gives people a couple hours to get their stuff together.
I mean, it does just feel like an iteration of just that same mindset you see everywhere. Like, hey, what if we just keep dealing with social ills by making the built environment more and more inhospitable?
And taking things away, just removing
if
things.
we just remove every bench, every trash can lock, every bathroom, fence off everything
will get better.
Fields of boulders everywhere you look. Problem solved, It does.
It is an extension of that weird thought process.
Yeah.
The connection I see is overregulation versus natural evolution. Because the other thing that happened recently downtown was they designated zones for Uber and Lyft pickups, which we heard from a few of these rideshare drivers. And they were like, we were blindsided by this. We had no idea what to do. All these drunk people getting out of the clubs had no idea what it was about either. They didn't know where to go. And so it's so Lodo late at night, we have places that food trucks can't go, and we have places that only Uber and Lyft drivers can go. It's
then it's a video game of watching drunk people navigate these areas.
These imaginary lines downtown. It's very weird.
You know what would be amazing? Maybe a bigger downtown area, like a New York City, where you have public transit that is accessible all night long.
Yeah, that's the key to the whole thing.
Might change some of this.
Anyway, we got to leave it there. We want to hear what you think about downtown right now. We always want to hear what you think about downtown. You got a story that happened. You got, you noticed something new. Let us know. 720-500-5418 is the phone number. Leave us a voicemail. Send us a text with your name and neighborhood. 720-500-5418. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about noise.
This episode is brought to you by the Colfax Avenue Business Improvement District. Come on down to Denver's most iconic street, Saturday, September 7th for the 2024 Colfax Crawl. This bar crawl is like none other, with 5 unique tracks to suit your taste. Beer lovers, dive bars, mocktails, queer bars, and wine and cocktails. Enjoy exclusive specials at popular spots like Bar Max, Brews Off Facts, The Squire, the newly opened Champagne Tiger, and more. I can't wait to go to Champagne Tiger, to be honest with you. What's their theme? Bougie Ratchet? Me. If there's a sober version of Bougie and Ratchet, it's me. Gather your crew and experience Denver's nightlife like never before. Because this is more than a bar crawl. It's a Colfax adventure. This event is poppin', so be sure to secure your spot before it sells out. Get your tickets now at multipass.com/ColfaxCrawl2024. That's multipass.com/ColfaxCrawl2024.
Hi, this is David, the CEO of CityCast. Do you ever find yourself holding back on travel because you're afraid of a language gap? Well, mind the gap no longer, as long as you have Babbel. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app. Its 10 minutes lessons are quick and handcrafted to get you talking your new language in 3 weeks. So I was reminded in the Olympics how much I love French. I had spoken French as a kid, but it has deteriorated to nothing. But I thought I would love to take a trip back to France with my girlfriend, but I'm embarrassed because my French is at 0. And I thought, why don't I get on Babbel and revive my French? And it's been a joy for the past few weeks. I'd forgotten everything. I'd forgotten plurals. I'd forgotten articles, vocabulary. Mostly I'd just forgotten how to speak and how to listen. And Babbel has me back on track with lots of speaking and lots of listening, because that's how you get better at a language. So I've been working on time, for example. And there's this way in French where when you say 2:45, you don't say 2:45, you say 3 o'clock minus 15. So, je rentre à 3h moins le quart. I'm coming back at 2:45. Anyway, it's so much fun to speak. And don't take my word for it. There's studies from Yale, from Michigan State University that prove that Babbel works. So, here's a special limited time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
All right, we're back. Watch out, Red Rocks. There's a brand new music venue just outside the Denver metro area as of last month. But according to neighbors, it's way, way, way too loud. The Denver Post reported that the $90 million Ford Amphitheater was subject to 600 noise complaints in its first 2 weeks. And it's not a new issue. We've got noise issues around music venues here in Denver for years and forever. Every time one opens, it seems like. So that's our hot topic this week. There's been developments on this story, but let's just start with this Ford Amphitheater. Have you all seen this thing from I-25?
I haven't. I've only seen the renderings and it looks cool.
Boy, it's a beast. It is a big boy.
I was looking at it on Google Maps last night.
Yeah? What'd you see? Tell us what you saw.
Well, I couldn't help but notice that, boy howdy, it sure is a big old fat outdoor music venue, not all that far from a bunch of homes.
Yeah, it's right smack in
And
the...
in this case, those homes were built first. I would say,
Yeah.
with Dick's Sporting Goods Park, the homes that are there were built after it existed.
I know. I feel like that's always the thing with airport noise, with complaints about airplanes or about nearby concerts.
Who was there first?
Yeah. And it's in this case, a whole bunch of people were living there first.
Mm-hmm. It's such a it's like the Colorado Springs version of Red Rocks. It's like a perfect embodiment of the cultures of the two places.
I like just how it looks.
Did you see the 90 VIP luxury fire pit suites, David, from Google Maps?
Wow.
Because that's the detail that stuck out to me about this place.
Actually, Google Maps does not even have this thing on satellite view yet. It
really?
has this big cleared field where it ended up going. So
90
no, I did not see the
fire pits?
90 fire pit.
Privately
luxury.
owned. Privately owned. Because when I saw the renderings, I was like, oh my God, a concert venue for me? I could just sit around a fire pit and make s'mores and not really pay attention to the music? Hell yeah. I want to go do that. But privately owned. So I don't know if you buy one and then you can just go to any concert you want and just show up to your fire pit.
Box seats, luxury box kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's wild.
It's very interesting. And it's also not that far from Denver. It's an hour
If you own one of those, I would like to go to it.
Seriously, reach out.
Please.
Invite the CityCast team.
I'll see
we're
any
there.
show. I don't care.
Steve Miller Band, he's coming.
Oh my God, I love Steve Miller.
You know he's 80 years old.
I better go now. I missed him with Jack Johnson many years ago, and that was a dream lineup for me. So it's time to go.
Jack Johnson and Steve Miller Band is a dream lineup for you?
I have versatile taste, Paul.
I'm learning that.
Thank you.
So the noise complaints. Let's talk about the noise issue. Let's just start with this quote from, I saw this in the Denver Post. Our friend John Wenzel's been covering this like crazy. It's such a fun story. But he quoted a Reddit user who wrote, "I'm a Northgate resident. I just got to hear One Republic play last night. I live 2.8 miles away from the amphitheater, but I could hear every word of their last song very clearly."
You're lucky, bro.
That's what people keep
Free
saying.
show.
Is it a free show? They build a high-end venue with fire pits, luxury seating, and the added traffic congestion, but don't give a second thought to the residents that have to hear it. What do we make of this conflict? Residents and noise.
I thought one thing that stood out to me in there was the owner. I think he says something like, there's just these 50 residents who are cranks. And I'm like, 50's not a small number when you look at how many houses. That's a not small number of the houses that are like within a close reach of this place.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I fundamentally have to wonder, like, was this the right place for this thing? El Paso County is big. I know it's right off I-25, but like, that probably is pretty noisy when you're trying to put your kids down for bed or something.
Yeah. I'm sympathetic to the residents. This
I
sounds
never,
this sounds
you
awful.
know me, I'm notoriously not. So
Where are you at? Yeah.
I live in an area where it's loud all the time. I live next to an event center. I just don't. It's part of life to me.
Was the event center there when you moved in?
Oh, it's I mean, I signed up for that for sure. I guess I just this is a constant fight about control of your environment. And I just wonder, like, I don't know, man, then I guess go live in a cabin in the woods if you don't want to hear anything. The complaints part I think is interesting because I do want to share an anecdote. I have a friend that's worked many, many shows at Red Rocks, and we were talking about this the other night because noise complaints have been an issue there obviously for years. And he said, Bree, sometimes people just have it on their calendars and they would call us. Oh, I have a noise complaint. He'd be like, weird, because the show got canceled and moved to another day. So, and I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I'm just saying, like, there's a little bit of this, like, NIMBY behavior that often overrules the rest of the community's desires and experience for, I don't know. This is a regulated thing. It's not like it's unregulated. Yeah. So I think they just need to get the sound. They need to make a decision with the sound and figure out how it's traveling and what it sounds like because, we know, like, if you live in a valley, it sounds differently. Like, it's just, I think it just needs to be fine-tuned. I think people are overreacting. I think they're freaking out. I think they didn't want a thing in their neighborhood because their neighborhood, the way it stands, is perfect, exactly how they have it, and they don't want anything to change. And this is like every neighborhood ever. I love everything, just don't change anything. Don't add anything, don't take anything away unless I say so. And then you can. And that's what it feels like to me. It's one of these fights is they'll get there, they'll figure it out. But in the meantime, people just need to calm down.
It is like, I mean, if you look at that area, I mean, it is an interesting, I mean, it's that north part of the Springs that has just been growing like crazy for a long time. Mm-hmm. And, it's also right next to one of the more interesting museums in the area, the Western Museum of Mining and Industry.
Oh, I've never been.
Yeah, most people in this area have not been. And it's really cool. If you ever want to see like colossal, gigantic mining machinery that actually still fires up and runs, that's the place to go see it. But yeah, I mean, it's like going there 10 years ago, it was kind of out in some fields, and now it's surrounded by a bunch of like Big O tires and Jimmy John's and all this other stuff.
Well, maybe they'll get lucky and it'll be a giant bomb money pit like the First Bank Center. It'll get torn down 10 years after it gets built because the fake neighborhood they built around it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it probably will filter out over time. I mean, the people who truly cannot stand it probably will move and will be replaced by people who can stand it.
Yeah. I also just I don't want to be at the defense of this ginormous corporation that owns this venue, but they're in the interest of making money. They need these people's buy-in. I think they're gonna have to figure it out. I just think that it's brand new and there's a little bit of hysteria around it, and they need to just come to the table and figure out what those noise, because again, I think John talks about this in his piece. The Red Rocks noise decibel levels the levels have changed over the years because EDM shows became really popular and bass travels and carries differently and you can feel it, and it's like, so they had to change the decibel levels. It's something that can be fixed. That's at the end of the day.
It is interesting to think of in terms of that larger conversation about like, how do we all live together in a city? And like, in ways big and small, how do we be part of a community? I mean, everything from off-leash dogs and scooters on sidewalks and, up to apartment buildings and
right, what they're building there right next to me, or what what kinds of things are going in. Well, but before Paul, you have told this story to me, and I want you to tell this story because
Happy to.
You lived in this major metropolitan area we're in.
Yeah, I lived my own version of this.
And you had a very unpleasant experience with a loud neighbor.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you exactly who it is and exactly where it happened and everything about it. So when I moved to Denver, my wife found us a great-looking apartment in the Golden Triangle in this historic building where some famous person once lived, apparently, according to the real estate whoever. And it's right next to Cuba on that corner. So if you know Cuba on the corner, a lot of people love that restaurant.
Love it.
Not me. So on the corner, Cuba. And then there was this lot, like an empty lot between Cuba and our apartment building. I don't know if maybe some people out there can visualize this. It's burned into my memory. So we move in February, in the middle of winter. Cuba, it's pretty quiet. And then spring comes and some construction starts in that lot. And they build a patio. And they build it right up to our wall. So our window to the outside is now a window onto the patio, to the point that we can open our window and reach out and grab cocktails off of tables.
Well, that sounds like a convenient sort of thing.
No. Oh my God. No. It was so bad. It was so bad. I mean, it was funny a couple of times when we did this and just started talking to patrons who, I mean, we were doing this to troll them because we were pissed. Yeah. Like, this is a restaurant with
just
live
sitting
music
in your window
late
while
at
they're
night,
eating.
literally sharing a window. Yeah, truly. I mean, we were so upset. We would sometimes leave on like loud music when we would leave the house and like let it play.
What kind of music?
I mean, sometimes it was music. Sometimes it was like videos of stuff that you wouldn't want to hear while you're eating.
Like weird Gregorian chants or something. Okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, someone might have put their butt up against the window, and then the owner of Cuba stormed over to our house and was like, "There was someone put up a man's butt up against the window while our patrons are eating," and it just escalated like this back and forth, and they were
Megan
not nice
and Paul
about
versus
it.
Cuba.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't really a resolution though. We just moved out, and every time I see it, I see people on this patio, and it's still there. The window from our apartment is still right out onto that patio.
So, do you empathize with these folks with the noise issues around Ford Amphitheater?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, it's not fair. But like you said, David, they'll just probably move. I mean, it will affect their. For us, like we didn't lose any money on the deal. If you bought a home in this neighborhood and then this starts,
yeah,
you're gonna make less money on that sale than you probably paid.
Yeah,
I would think.
I think we are not. I think the act of living in cities is not a particularly natural thing for Homo sapiens. Like I mean that I really do. I think that this, I mean, it's the same thing that humans start doing when we're fighting over the armrest on an airplane seat, And I think it's I think in a lot of ways the way that we, especially a city like this, one that came into being about 160 years ago and has is I think it's so funny the way we expect it to stay exactly the way it was at one point in time, when actually it's this continuously changing thing, and
it's part of life to me. Yeah.
Well, it's part of the agreement of living in a city. It's like you have to agree that like this will never stay the same.
Yeah.
And that you have to get along with everyone. And a lot of people are really, really, really not good with either of those.
Yeah, and we've made systems that deal with these sorts of conflicts. Like in the Springs, here's the resolution, at least the latest compromise. The mayor, Yemi Mobolade, stepped in, the independent mayor down there, and him and some city officials brokered a deal with the owners of this Ford Amphitheater. They put out a statement last week, and the owners basically agreed to make some compromises to, they insist that they've been in compliance with the sound restrictions ever since they opened. Although some people are like, they measured it in the wrong places, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they identified a few strategies that they're going to take to make the neighbors a little bit less angry, like not having fireworks, except possibly on July 4th.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair.
Increasing the depth of the eastern sound wall. They're going to hire acousticians to explore reconfiguring speakers.
Acousticians.
I know. How do I get that job?
But it makes sense. You just turn a speaker and it changes where the sound goes.
It can help. And they're going to explore the possibility of more physical sound mitigation, pending the results of further research. So seems like
there's
they're
solutions
listening.
on the horizon.
They're talking.
Also, do we want to live in a place where things are not growing and businesses are leaving, or do we want to live in a place that is growing and is bringing money and tax base to our
And
community.
Steve Miller,
And Steve, hell yeah.
the 80-year-old Steve Miller.
Fly Like an Eagle. Great song.
All right, we're going to go for one more quick break, and we'll be back with our favorite way to end the week, wins and fails. Hey, it's Paul, dropping in to let you know that I was wrong, or at least partially wrong. You can buy tickets to see a show in the Ford Amphitheater's Luxury Fire Pit Suites. We found some individual tickets to see Steve Miller on a resale site, and it looks like it's going to cost between $120 and $400 per person to roast marshmallows and listen to an 80-year-old space cowboy shimmy his way through abracadabra. Or you could take your money and run.
This episode is brought to you by Pine Melon, because I want you to have the peace of mind that comes with knowing where your food actually comes from and the sense of satisfaction you'll get from supporting the local Colorado community. It's a grocery delivery service that works with local farmers, ranchers, and artisans, and it's super easy to use and super fast, like same-day delivery fast. When our newsletter editor Peyton Garcia needed Bruna's Brazilian cheese bread in a pinch, she made an order with Pine Melon and it was delivered right to her door. Her neighborhood game night snack tray was complete. If you need a specialty food item on the fly or just want to make sure you're able to get Colorado's local produce delivered right to your door for dinner, Pine Melon has got you covered. Plus, if you go to pinemelon.com today and use promo code CityCastDenver, you get $75 off your first delivery. Again, go to pinemelon.com and use promo code CityCastDenver and get $75 off your first order today.
All right, we're back. Best way to end the week, my favorite part of the show, Rocky Mountain highs and lows, aka wins and fails. We're going to go around, share a recent local something we think is a fail, and then a recent local something we think is a win. You all know how it works. We'll start with fails. I'll start.
Go for it, Paul.
So we've been talking about this proposed merger of the parent companies of King Soopers and Safeway for years since they announced that they were going to do this. They even put out a list earlier this year about like the I think 91 Safeways across Colorado that would be closed under this merger. We had on the Attorney General Phil Weiser earlier this year. He was investigating this. He was very upset about it. He's got his own lawsuit that's coming soon. But there's a trial going on right now in Portland over the FTC's lawsuit, because they're trying to block it also. Lots of lawsuits happening. And in that trial, Newsweek has reported that Kroger's senior director for pricing, Andy Groff, under questioning, admitted that the grocery giant had raised prices for eggs and milk beyond inflation levels, which is price gouging.
As a person that has to buy several gallons of whole milk a week for my 3-year-old that drinks it like the Incredible Hulk, this really pisses me off.
Yeah, it sucks.
This has just, from the day one felt like one of those like don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining kind of situations.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing it because they think they can make more money, and this is
people
how they do
food.
it.
People need
lower
food,
prices.
so...
Like, of course you won't. Of course it will not lower prices. Of course this will not be good for consumers. Like, come on, man. I can tell what color the sky is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's definitely arguments on both sides, and but this was just like, how brazen. How brazen.
Listen, I just don't want to have to be associated with being a Safeway customer. I've been a King's customer my whole life, and I know that they are owned by Kroger, and it's not the King Soopers of yore that actually never existed when I was a kid either.
You know what? Once upon a time, though, they had penny horses, they had free cookies for kids, they had free publications.
Cookies.
Yeah, and all of
they
those.
They had a great video store.
Yeah.
King Soopers had a video store?
Hell yeah, inside of it. It was great.
Whoa.
Loved it.
That.
Oh,
That's crazy.
So good. Yeah, the penny horse.
Yeah.
We're losing so much. We can't lose anymore. And also price gouging sucks.
Yeah.
David, give us your fail.
My fail of the week is the inexorable march of time.
Wow.
Labor
Getting
Day
old sucks.
No, Labor Day bums me out. I can't help it. I can't help but get really bummed out when I watch all the outdoor pools close and all the seasonal attractions. Tiny Town is closed now. All the weird little small town museums that are open Memorial Day to Labor Day. And it's like, and the consolation is always like, oh, well, now it's soup season. And it's like, well, is it? It's like, at this point, we still have like 2 more months of 90+ degree days.
Fair point.
And it's
Fair
like,
point.
I'm sitting out there thinking like, boy, it would be nice to go to Waterworld today, but it closed a month ago.
Oh, that's true.
That
is one of the harsh realities of summer is it's dictated by the calendar of Labor Day.
So yeah, it's like, so if we
moment.
could really actually move into soup season now and spooky season and all that, like that would be grand. Like if I
the
could,
Halloween people, I'm like, calm down, y'all.
Yeah.
Like literally August just ended. I'm a September person. Please give me my month before you get a whole month of your Halloween.
yeah, I don't like. I want to bust out the sweater vests. I really do. But it's like it's like
not the weather will not let you.
no. And so it's like, now at this point, it's like, I'm sorry. It's like we need to push Labor Day ahead. So that's my fail.
All right. I'll take it. Bree, how about you? What's your fail?
There was this piece in the Denver Post this week. Worries mount over the fate of Denver's Grand Dame, the Brown Palace Hotel. Quote, It is in a free fall now. We have not heard a good thing about the Brown Palace in the last 2 years. This labor issues, the terrible story of the unhoused handyman who was living there and was kicked out when someone discovered that he was living there because he had nowhere else to go. I mean,
The scandalous revelation that the champagne waterfall is a lie. Not
really
all those
upset
glasses
Paul.
are full of champagne.
Yeah, laying off the doormen and the valets.
yeah, some of
Actual
them were
problems,
like in their like 80s, like that was their job. I mean, also we lose the expertise of these folks. This, the fate of Ellington's, what's going on with the restaurant, and it's just like. It's one of those moments where you truly feel helpless because you're like, a giant corporation that doesn't exist in Colorado owns this thing and doesn't care about it as much as we do. But what do we do as regular citizens of Denver who aren't normally really patrons of it, unless we're going to the Ship's Tavern or we go for high tea or whatever.
Which people do. Those things are popular around Christmas time.
Absolutely. It's hard to get into high tea. It's a very popular thing.
Now
but
you just get like a Lunchables for high tea.
But like, we can't do anything. I think that's the helplessness part to me is we can't do anything about it, and we know how important this place is. And this is the moment where it feels like it's not important to the corporate overlords that own it in the way that it's important to us. And I pray somebody swoops in and
South
saves
Park
it.
guys, here are please.
I know. You guys
bought
have
the
so
Pink
many.
Palace, buy the brown one.
Oh yeah,
Turn it
Pink
into
Palace,
a big
Brown
Casa Bonita
Palace.
hotel.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
That'd be incredible.
I was really holding out for Lakeside, but I don't think they're going to do that. They learned their lesson with Casa Bonita.
And also, apparently, we learned this week, Casa Bonita still not making money.
I mean,
that sucks. If we
Yeah,
want this
but
thing to
also-
survive, we
At
want them
least
to.
they finally
to
opened up
work.
reservations, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at least because it's just been so sad the past few years to see past couple years past year, everyone on social media going, "Hey, I want to take my out of town guest to Casa Bonita. Can we work out some kind of swap for the special tickets deal?" And it's like, man, that was such a central part of what Casa Bonita was supposed to be to the Denver metro area.
You take your friends from out of town.
Yeah.
You take your family, your cousins that come from Kansas,
So,
like I
yeah.
did. It's So I don't know. I'm just sad. I hope the Brown Palace makes it.
I mean, I think that's part of that downtown conversation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's about this idea that like if downtown can recover, maybe somebody will come in. I mean, it's like
And
Lord
see
knows
its
Colorado
value.
has no shortage of other boutique hotels where
Right.
you get waved with palm fronds and fed peeled grapes and whatever the hell. So, I mean, yeah, maybe if downtown recovers, maybe there's a future for the Brown
Someone will
Palace.
see what we see in it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to wins. David, why don't you start with a win?
Blank Slate.
Blank Slate.
My friend's band.
I love this band.
Yeah, they're like the best band in Denver. They are on tour right now of the East Coast, and they just had their first ever sold out show on tour.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're
That's like a feat in itself.
Yeah,
It's truly.
yeah,
It's tough.
Sold out show. It was in Vermont, I think.
Oh, great place to play. Very Colorado vibes there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could
yeah.
see how it worked.
So no, it's just like no, and then and they're coming back here, and then this winter they're planning to put out their second album, Lookout Mountain Charlie, and I'm just like really stoked. It's just like so awesome to see my incredibly talented friends like winning.
And I just love seeing local musicians get out of Colorado and have success as well, because we get to share what we have here. And I mean, a Blank Slate on a national level would be a really awesome thing for us.
Yeah. Totally.
Saying as a music scene, that would be a perfect band to showcase who we are.
I know
So.
they're one of those. It's like I don't even like I'm a dweeby suburban dad, and I'm not exactly sure why they hang around with me. But it's
Listen, all
so
bands
cool.
have to have fans.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a total
All music
groupie.
scenes have to have fans.
Yeah, so no,
So-
it's hearing about my friends out there winning and kicking ass. It's just like
That's
it's a
great.
cool, good feeling, and they're just so talented.
I
Great
love
one.
it.
Great one.
Paul.
All right, I'll go. Yes. I think think, I don't know if I'm widely known as this, but I should be. I'm a patron of the sandwich arts. And I had a bad experience at a local beloved neighborhood market / sandwich shop recently that was just like, these people disrespected my sandwich. They had great ingredients and they arranged them so poorly. It was such a bad experience. I'm not going to name them. There was no artistry involved. So my win is going to the crew at the Jersey Mike's on South Colorado because they are crushing it. They're on a hot streak.
Honestly, I've never had a bad sandwich at Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's is in a sweet spot right now of like they've
really
expanded. So they got a lot of locations, yet no drop in quality.
Yeah.
Quality control is impeccable. And they got a crew that's trained to the nines. These guys are crushing it. Rock stars, absolute studs at the South Colorado Jersey Mike's. Check it out if you've never been.
I went to a Jersey Mike's, I think, in Pueblo, and it was fantastic.
Really? I believe it. So, that's the number one sandwich chain.
Oh.
I got some local places I like too.
Okay.
Jersey Mike's.
That sounds really
Hell
good.
yeah. That's my win.
I love it.
I'm down. I like it.
Brie, how about you? What's your win?
You know, last night I finally got to go to Champagne Tiger. And I loved it. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. We went there to see, they have this live music. I think it's like pasta and piano on Wednesday nights. And it's got a piano bar, and it's got piano player Buddy Bravo, and he's got this wonderful, the violin player I met, Vio, who you can probably see on the 16th Street Mall, and this wonderful singer. Oh, I wish I remembered his name, but it was just such a fun experience. But I had this very Colfax experience where I'm inside this beautiful lounge. It's the old Tom's Diner, so it has these soaring windows. So you see, you're in this luxurious space with this dark wood and the piano, and then you look out and you're on Colfax. And there's a man giving another man a haircut right next to the window for like 45 minutes. Wow. And we're like watching the piano, checking on the haircut, watching the piano, haircut's still going. And then I walked over and I ran into another friend of ours in the media, and then we were just talking, and I said, "Did you see that guy getting the haircut?" And he said, "Yeah, and actually someone went up and complained to the owner and said, 'Are you going to do something about that?'"
What?
About what?
The haircut?
Was it a bad haircut?
I mean, the owner's response was, "No, what am I going to do?" And I thought, that's someone that understands Colfax, and I'm so happy they are running a business there because they're seeing the beauty of like what is, you can try to make Colfax something that it's not.
Many
it will
people
never
have tried.
happen. And I love that this Space Champagne Tiger is not trying to make it something that it's not. It's adding a component to it. It's giving some of that flair that makes Colfax amazing while also respecting what already exists there. And I just had such a lovely time. So
I'm so glad to hear that.
please check out Champagne Tiger. You generally have to reserve a table. I would call them. We had a table reservation because it was packed when we got in
Really?
there on a Wednesday night.
I wanted to see Tom Starlight, but I just didn't move fast
Tom
enough.
Starlight was cool too, and it's got a little bit of a different vibe now, I would say, but it is still like this heightened, Vegas-y style experience. But also it's just like a very beautiful queer bar, and it just has this lovely energy, and also beautiful people hang out in there. There was just people in beautiful outfits. It was just like visually stunning. And if you haven't been there since it was Tom's Diner, just know that the bathrooms are now accessible and they're large and there's multiple stalls, and you're not crammed in a corner trying to go to the bathroom while some strangers washing their hands.
That was a pretty intense little bathroom.
It really was. I don't know how I think they pushed out the business a little bit because they built into the parking lot. Oh, the patio too looks
I wonder about
incredible.
the patio. I was there for a little preview event a couple weeks ago. And
you wouldn't know how big it is till you go in there.
it's giant. The patio is giant.
It's massive. So I can't wait to see Summer in this space. I can't wait to do a drag brunch. But please go check out Champagne Tiger. Absolutely worth it. Beautiful place.
Yeah, that owner's name is Chris Donato. Shout out to Chris.
Thank you so much. You've done a great job. And thank you for respecting what Colfax is, which is full of amazing weirdos. Thank you. Also, I didn't get to see the end result of the haircut. We didn't get the final reveal.
I was going to ask.
We were
how
so
it turned
sucked
out.
into the piano playing. I told you this earlier, Paul. The singer was like, "And now we're going to play a beautiful song by Rufus Wainwright from the movie Shrek." And he was so serious about it. And then it was Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. But so we were sucked into that. We missed the end of the haircut. But go see Champagne Tiger. You might get a similar experience.
Yeah, it's a fun thing. Also, just that space has like gone through so many iterations now. It's just one of those places with great stories. Many stories.
And it feels, if you're missing the old Tom's Diner vibe, it still has components of that. You will feel that.
Well, here we are at the end of the show. David, you have a history presentation coming up.
I do. If you want to listen to me talk some more, you can see me present my upcoming Historical Society presentation for Historic Englewood on Tuesday, January 28th at Mayflower Church in Englewood. You can see me present my new Historical Society talk, which is titled One Man Dead, Another Man on Fire, and Free Pie for All, the 1913 Englewood Flood.
Whoa.
More information at historicenglewood.com.
Great. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. Or we'll put a link to that 5280 story from Robert Sanchez in the show notes too, and a bunch of other stuff.
That was really good. He said everything that I kind of wanted to say about downtown.
Yeah.
Or a lot of it anyway.
It's a great encapsulation.
Yeah, it was good.
There you go. Also, one last note before we go. Since we're talking about the city south of Denver, I wanted to just address the pronunciation question because we talked about this on the show recently, and someone commented and they were like, Paul says Englewood wrong. And apparently I do. Apparently you say it Inglewood, not Englewood.
I say it Inglewood, but I also am not from Inglewood, so I thought maybe I was saying it wrong too. I don't know.
I grew up there, and we say Englewood. And actually, in high school we said either Engleweed or Englehood.
I'm gonna do that now.
I don't think the Chamber of Commerce likes either of those. But
all right, well, let's call it there. We're going to go out on a song by Blank Slate, hot new band out of a city called Denver, Colorado. My favorite track off their 2022 album, Summer on a Salt Flat, is Bell Station. We're going to hear Bell Station by Blank Slate.
Beautiful. Love it.
David, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. This was a blast.
Thanks, guys.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were Natalie Rivera, Olivia Jewel Love, and me, Paul Caroli. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter, Hey Denver. Bree Davies is our host. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Instagram at CityCast Denver, and tell the crew at the Jersey Mike's on South Colorado about us the next time you're in for a sandwich. You can sign up for our daily newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. See you next week. Wow, I said that with such little passion. But I am passionate. You should go to Jersey Mike's. It's a great sandwich.
I didn't tell my story of living in an apartment building in New York where my neighbor played Alien Ant Farm's cover of Smooth Criminal every day, all day long for like 6 months.
Wow.
Great
Like,
song.
of all songs.
I was going to say,
that one.
like, good song. Don't ruin it.